I shouldn't have been in the mine alone. I knew that before I ever stepped inside. The map wasn't even mine. I found it folded into a stack of old papers in my uncle's things after he died, hand-drawn, marked up, with a section circled and labeled in a way that didn't mean anything to me at the time. Chamber 4. He'd worked these tunnels years ago before they shut the place down. There were stories, half-jokes mostly, about things that got left behind when the company pulled out too fast. Equipment, materials, things no one bothered to come back for. My uncle said there was an entire fortune just lying underground abandoned. I told myself I was just going to take a look, get in, find whatever the map was pointing to, and get back out before anyone noticed I'd been there. I noticed it the first time I stopped to check my map. I'd been walking for maybe 20 minutes, following the old service tunnel from the east shaft toward what the survey notes called Chamber 4. The air was still. The beam from my headlamp cut maybe 15 feet ahead before the dark just swallowed it whole. I stopped walking, unfolded the map, and that's when I heard it. Movement. Behind me. Something shifting in the dark. A sound like boots dragging across the loose stone. Brief. 3, maybe 4 steps. Then nothing. I stood very still and listened. Silence. I told myself it was the mind settling. Told myself old tunnels do that they creak and pop and sound like things they aren't. I folded the map, started walking again, and the sound was gone. I stopped a second time about 10 minutes later. My lamp flickered. I paused, tapped the housing, and in that small window of stillness, there it was again. That same soft drag of something moving, coming from behind me, maybe 40 feet back. I spun around, nothing, just the tunnel and the dark and the silence. I stood there and counted. 1, 2, 3. Nothing moved, nothing breathed, nothing made another sound. I turned back and started walking. It was quiet again. The third time I stopped, I did it on purpose. I stopped mid-step. Dead still. Didn't breathe. Just listened. And it happened. Immediately. That shuffling, dragging sound from somewhere behind me. Closer now than the first 2 times. Maybe 20 feet. I moved again. It stopped. I stopped. It moved. I tested it again. And again. And then I understood. Whatever was in the tunnel with me, it only moved when I didn't. I walked faster. My light bounced ahead of me, catching the rough walls, the low ceiling, the old support beams gone soft with age. I didn't stop. I kept moving. Steady. Controlled. The tunnel stayed silent behind me. I was maybe a third of the way to Chamber 4. I told myself, as long as you keep walking, nothing moves. That's the rule. Stay moving. Don't stop. Don't slow down. I thought about checking the map again, but that would mean stopping. Then my foot caught a loose rail tie and I stumbled. And in that split second, before I caught myself, I heard it. Not behind me anymore. Off to the right. I froze. Stared into the dark where a smaller passage branched off from the main tunnel. I must have walked right past it earlier without really seeing it. My light didn't reach the end of it. Something was in there. Something that had moved when I fell. I started walking again. Fast. The sound stopped. But I couldn't stop thinking about the direction. It wasn't behind me anymore. That was the problem. The tunnel began to narrow. The ceiling dropped. I had to tuck my chin to keep from scraping the beams. The walls pressed in. The air felt heavier. I was sweating through my jacket. The ground was worse here. Broken stone. Shallow water I didn't see until I stepped in it. Every time I hesitated, even for half a second, I heard it. Not just footsteps anymore. Something else. a low, wet sound beneath the movement, like breathing, like effort. I didn't stop to confirm it. I just kept walking. But the sounds were changing. Faster now, closer, too close. My legs were starting to ache. That deep, grinding pain from walking too long on uneven ground. I wanted to stop. Just for a second. I didn't. But then I realized something. I hadn't heard it behind me in a while, not since the side passage, and I had been slowing down, and it hadn't moved, which meant it had already moved. I stopped. I didn't choose to. My body just stopped. Everything in me was listening. Silence behind me. Silence to the right. Silence to the left. Then, ahead of me, something shifted. Slow. Deliberate. Something settling its weight at the edge of my light. Right where I needed to go. I didn't move. It didn't move. We stayed like that. And then I understood. The rule wasn't just that it moved when I stopped. It was that, while I was focused on keeping it behind me, it had already solved the rest of the problem. I'm writing this in the tunnel. I don't know how long I've been sitting here. My legs gave out a while ago. Real cramps. Locked tight. I can't walk. But I can't stay still either. It's in front of me. It's behind me. And there's nowhere else to go. My light is still on. The battery won't last forever. I can hear it every time I stop writing, so I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop moving my hands. I don't know if that's enough, but it's movement. The sounds are different now, closer, on both sides. And whatever the rule is, I think it's learning. I think it's been learning this whole time. I came down here looking for something my uncle left behind. Something valuable. Something worth the risk. Now I keep thinking about why this place was shut down. And I don't think it was just what they told people. And I think the rule was never really about stopping. I think it was about learning how I move.